G'day guys, back again. We've got a 2004 or 2005, I think, 2004 VZ Commodore with a 5.7 litre in it. It's got a aftermarket supercharger and throttle body. It's coming in for a limp mode and engine light on, and as you can see here, I've already scanned it for codes. 0220 TP or APP sensor 2 and 2135 TP sensor 1-2 correlation. So I did try to, I'll do it again just to make sure. I did try to clear the codes. Key on, engine off, continue, trouble codes logged. It's got one at the moment. I dare say if I do it again, it'll be both. No, it's only got one. Alright, interesting. So let's just go to live data, throttle data. Alright, live data, let's go APP1, APP2, TPS1, TPS2, graph view. So I've got the key on, I'm just going to put my foot down on the accelerator. Let's see what happens to... Okay, that's my foot flat. APP1 and APP2 are working normally. Although, I'm not sure if these are meant to cross opposite, but both of the sensors are working. Interesting. Anyway, TPS1 and TPS2 are basically doing nothing. So if I put my foot flat, that's flat now. APP, both of them go up, and TPS do almost nothing. Just taking my foot off. So clearly we've got an issue with that throttle body. I think could be wiring. The fact that it's got an aftermarket throttle body, that it does look like it says GM on it, so it may be off another vehicle that has a supercharger. So let's just go out and have a look, and we'll go from there. So we've got the wiring diagram here, and I just decided to pull this throttle body off because it's only 4 bolts, and it's got this ugly looking 8-pin to 6-pin patch harness underneath, and I just wanted to check if that was in good condition. It appears to be okay, but I got their scan tool here. I'm just going to, obviously, I'm going the wrong way, I'm just going to operate that, and if you can see here, I'll just go full throttle, and as you can see, both TP sensors are actually working. So I think this motor is obviously failed, or we don't have power to the motor. So got the wiring diagram here, we got a yellow and brown wire. I'll find them on there, I'll get the scope connected up, and let's see if we got any power or pulse width modulation that's going to tell us what the issue is. So what I did is I got the yellow and brown, and we had 4 volts on each of them, so no pulse width modulation of the motor at all. But what I did is I cleared the codes, I checked, I did key on, and it did the sweep, the normal sweep. It started to do it, and I caught that on the screen. As you can see, we've got control, and then all of a sudden it stops straight away and logs a code, and there's only one code that comes back now, P2135. So since I moved it by hand, it's the other code's not coming back, the 220 code, but obviously this 2135 is coming back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect that connector and see if this correlation code goes away and brings another code, because essentially if there's an issue, this part backwards to the PCM shouldn't make a difference if we have that plugged or unplugged. So let's just see if I can just unplug that now. Oh, there we go. P2135 is still there because the other one's just lit up. So let's just go back, clear the codes, and see if it comes back on. And the 2135 is gone. So I dare say we've got an issue inside this throttle body, or even this patch harness, but it's obviously very hard to say. I don't know where the hell this came from, so we might need to speak to the customer and see what that means. What is this thing? Is that some sort of resistance spec or some crap? Who knows, mate? Who knows? So might give the customer a ring and see what he wants to do here. So just quickly, what I did is I did the same thing I did before. I cleared the codes with the plug unplug just to see if it would be the same, and as you can see, I just zoomed in on it. We definitely have some control, realizes there's a fault, and it stops controlling it. So we might recommend to the customer, firstly let's find out about this crap thing and then find out what the customer wants to do. So here's why we have a patch harness for this. You can see on the original one we've got an 8-pin because there is a separate power and ground for both TP1 and TP2, if you want to have a look at that diagram. And the VE throttle body, apparently off of VE, is a 6-pin. The power and ground for TP1 and TP2 is common. So let's look into that. Keep going. So here's something interesting. I cleared the codes. I wanted to look at what the scope was reading compared to what the scan tool was reading. Cleared the codes, it does its sweep, starts reading again. Have a look what happens here. That happens at the end, and then look what our sensor 2 is doing. It's dropping down quite low, so I'm just going to do that again, and then I'm going to zoom in on it and I'll get you back up. Have a look at that. That's a better look at it, and you can see it's dropping from 1 volt to almost 0.3 volts, but you're not really seeing it on the scan data. That's very odd. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the power and the ground on that sensor, see if they're dropping out, and that will tell us whether we got a TPS fault or not. I just connected to the power and ground of that sensor, and as we were seeing before, but as I sweep it, nothing changes on the power and ground. So yeah, let me have a think about what's next. Okay, so the update is that we spoke to the customer. He had his old throttle body at home, the original one. We wanted to make sure, wanted to bring it in. Let's see, does TP2 have those spikes in this one as well? And then we can make a decision. I've already done the tests, and luckily he had that there. I did get a genuine Holden subscription, and I really couldn't find the information that I wanted. So fantastic that he had this throttle body in, and just helped us to go a little bit further on this. What I've done is now it's failing again automatically. So when I clear the codes, as you can see, I clear the codes here, it tries to move the throttle body, and we start reading normally. It registers the TP, I just cleared it again, registers the TP12 correlation fault, and then it goes to nothing and goes back to limp mode. So what I want you to notice now is that difference. So whether there's a small difference or not, it's very hard to determine. I couldn't really get an exact specification from anything, including the genuine data. Maybe I was looking in the wrong spot, but whatever. I just want to show you what happens when I put the original one back in. So trying to do this one hand is absolutely not ideal. Let's get that off. Let's get that on. Let's put the scope on. Look at that. They are on top of each other, dead on, 100% replicating each other. I'll clear the codes. So I'll clear the codes, we'll let it do its thing. I'll tell you when I'm clearing. I'll clear the codes. Does its thing, it's recording. As you can see, we're still doing the drops. I don't know why. If someone already knows, you can explain it to me. Chuck it in the comments, whatever. The important thing is the high side of that signal matches exactly the TP1. So if you watch this as I sweep the throttle myself, so you can see that they are absolutely 100% exactly the same. And I can prove it, we're not failing. We know there's no issue. There's no issue with this at all. So 100% there's a fault with either this TP1, TP2 correlation inside this unit itself, or an issue with this stupid capacitive thingy that we got here. So whatever, we're going to speak to the customer, and we'll get the customer to decide whether he wants to try one of these patch harnesses first or get the whole thing in one unit. So that's where we're at, and yeah, I'll let you know how we go once the customer decides what he wants to do. Alrighty, so we got a new patch harness. We sent the other one away to the supplier, and it failed on their tester, whatever the tester is. So they sent us a new one. We're going to plug it into the original throttle body that it had on it. It's got a couple of instructions here, depending on which throttle body you have, whether you've got a silver blade or a gold blade. But if reading this correctly, it sounds like we don't have to do anything, just plug and play for a silver blade. And also in the meantime, I got some documentation on the dropout on TPS2. As you can see here, it's normal for these voltages to drop. The computer grounds the TP2 every so often to test for internal shorts. Obviously, if TP1 and TP2 stay different, with TP2 going down and TP1 staying normal, then the PCM knows that there's no short internally for safety reasons. So there you go. I just found that online. So let's get this patch harness in and let's have a look. Alright, we're together, but we are not much better on the screen. It's almost exactly the same, but I have revved it and it doesn't drop out. It looks closer together. Hopefully you can see this. Going the wrong way. It'd be nice if I could just go the right way. So, and it doesn't drop out at all. So I'm thinking there was an issue with that, whatever that capacitive thing on this crappy patch harness, and as you revved it, and disparity got greater on the TPS sensors, throttle position sensors, not TPS sensors. That's when the difference was just a little bit too far out of spec, and that's when it logged the code. I'm going to go for a drive in it to make sure that this is good without the throttle body. We were able to have another VE in, and we did plug that throttle body in, and it's 100% not the throttle body. So this issue is 100% the in this patch harness. It's, that's what happens when you put an aftermarket thing in, try and convert something to something else. So this is probably the best it's going to be if the customer wants to keep this set up. So we're just going to put it together, take it for a drive, and see how it goes, and then we'll get back to you. The other interesting thing is, I want you to take note here. If we look at, I'll keep these scales exactly the same. If we look at that, it's almost at 1 volt where it's dropping to. So what I want to do is I want to plug the original throttle body in. I'll keep the settings exactly the same, so I'll just stop it here. Bear with me, I'll change it over and I'll do the same test. Look at that. That's the original throttle body back on. That's our ruler mark of how far the computer was able to pull down that TP2, and look at where it should be going. Should be going all the way to ground, and it's not. So this is just a junk harness. It's crap, but whatever. That's what the customer wants. So we're going to put it back together and go for a drive and make sure that the disparity is not greater. Is still okay as you get up into the rev range. And then see if it gets rid of this code. Otherwise, if it doesn't, it's just a junk system. Nothing you can do about it. Okay, so my mistake. I spoke to the supplier of this LX Extreme cable, and I told them that it wasn't right, and they asked if I removed the shunts. But looking at this, if you look at the highlighted in yellow, there's a word missing. Inside the module, have be removed. Now, can that be thought of as have to be removed or have been removed? So anyway, he told me that the shunts had to be removed, and they are the two little babies there, which I've already actually taken out and put back together. And let me tell you, it's still just as bad. So it pulls down to ground maybe 150 millivolts more, 100 millivolts more, but the disparity between the two signals is still exactly the same. This is just, it's still not right. So yeah, there you go. Alright guys, back from a road test. No engine light on. So no TP1 and 2 correlation. It's not to say it's not going to come back, because this is, like I said before, this is 100% not right. You know, the point of converting something or retrofitting something to another vehicle is to make the vehicle think that it's right, and this crappy system that's on the vehicle at the moment is just not good enough to make it think it's right. So it's only a matter of time before how that capacitor works and it starts to creep away from TP1 and TP2, it's going to cause the same issue. So junk system, we'll explain it to the customer. I'll get both graphs, the original TP1 and 2 correlation and TP1 and 2 correlation now, and I'll show the customer and just confirm to him that this is what it is. So you're just going to have to take it and see how it goes. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. You know, I love your thoughts on what you think of these systems where you're putting aftermarket stuff on vehicles that are not meant to have it. You know, they need to be 100% perfect, and it's not. It's crap. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.